Hello to all my people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched Spots and Chair Shots. I'm your host, a chef by trade and a mark by choice. I am the Will Gray, and joining me tonight, guys, we've got two first-time guests, Rivet City Radio and Botched Spots and Chair Shots. Joining us tonight, we got Rylan Turner and Kyle Joseph. They are the host of Wednesday Night Wallop from Wallop Media. Gentlemen, how are you guys tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. We are no longer the host of Wednesday Night Wallop, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I guess I had my notes wrong then.
That's okay. We rebranded as Wallop Media in the summertime.
Okay. So still the same vein, just kind of a rebranding similar when Botched Spots became Rivet City Radio kind of thing.
Correct.
Completely understand. My apologies, but good to hear that things are going well.
Absolutely.
Jess is here. Al is here. It's good to see everybody in the chat. People will start trickling in. Joining us to the top right of the screen, because there is no Al tonight, she's under the weather. Replacing the boss bitch, though, is the co-host of Rivet City Red Zone. He's the co-host of The Table Spot. It's everybody's favorite metalhead, Metalcore Mike. Mike, how are you, brother?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm glad you're here. Subbing in for Al. Can I call you boss bitch the rest of the night then?
Yeah, if you want. As long as Al's okay with it.
As long as Al signs off with you being the stand-in boss bitch.
Yeah, as long as she's okay with it, I'm cool.
All right. And as always, if Al's my right hand and Bo would be my left, it's everybody's favorite Ginger Ninja. He's the co-host of pretty much every other fucking podcast on the internet that I'm not a part of. It's Jax, Bo. Bo, how are you, bro?
I am doing fantastic. I have a nice cup of Joe.
Nice cup of Joe?
Nice cup of Joe, and I'm doing great.
Al says, shout out to Mike for being the boss bitch tonight. So you get her blessing. Tommy's in the chat, but he's also sitting backstage watching us live in the studio. So shout out to everybody's favorite cuck, Tommy. We love you, bud. Just says, get well. All right, while everybody's here real quick, before we get going, I want to say thank you for listening. Wherever you're listening, like, follow, subscribe, all of that stuff. Leave a 5-star review and comment. But first, gentlemen, before we get going and before we get rolling into the episode, I always start it every week. What has you pissed off for greatness? What has you the most worked up? Good, bad, indifferent. It could be somebody's gear, a match, a finish, an entire fucking show. I don't care. What has you the most worked up in pro wrestling? What has you pissed off for greatness? I will call names if nobody starts talking when I get done, and go.
I will go. So since just so everyone knows, I'm not really nothing has me pissed off, but let me tell you how great it is to see the national treasure himself, Nick Aldis, on my TV screen weekly now. Okay, he comes dressed. He's got the nice suits. He's finding people. He's doing what a GM should do. All right. Jay was in the wrong. He shouldn't have been on SmackDown. He's a Raw player. I feel like we're going to start seeing some exclusivity. I'm probably not using that word right.
Exclusivity
with brands now. Because since this so-called brand splits, which Will knows is not real, we actually haven't had a authority figure other than Adam Pearce. So now to see Adam Pearce have what is competition, I finally think we'll get back to SmackDown and Raw competing against each other.
Okay.
It looks like that's the direction for Survivor Series, is where we're going back to the Raw versus SmackDown type feel. But you know what? Like, I've never been opposed to that, and I'll talk about this later. But as long as there's stakes involved, I think that it's perfectly fine to go that route. The problem is that for years and years and years, it's just been Raw versus SmackDown for no reason. And if you actually throw something on the line, whether it's a Rumble thing, whether it's a storyline that takes place over the next few weeks, like it's at least making it so it seems important to do it. Otherwise, you're putting those guys in those Raw and SmackDown shirts, and it doesn't mean anything.
Agreed.
I like it.
All right. Any of the three of you got one for me?
Yeah. So the one thing that got me a little ticked off was something that happened on Monday night. Jay and Cody lost the tag belts after having them for what, 10 days?
9
days, 10 days, day split. The thing is they literally gave us an answer on how Cody was going to possibly get back to Roman. And now they're pretty much starting from the beginning. I'm wondering, because this was the way. He had Cody had a championship where he could be on both shows. And now we're back to square one on wondering, how is that going to happen? Or is it even going to happen? Because we realistically don't know. That's just the prediction and the rumor that's going around that we're going to see them again at WrestleMania 40. So that's the thing that got me a little ticked off.
I 100% agree with you on that. That was going to be mine too, but I decided to come with two just in case. Mine's positive. I love Impact Wrestling becoming TNA Wrestling again. As somebody who watched that promotion through the worst of eras, I always thought that Impact Wrestling sounded lame as all hell. And to see them get those 3 letters back without Hulk Hogan's input, his bullshit input about how he couldn't take meetings with that name, I don't know. I think it adds. This brand has been slowly but surely kind of getting to a point where, number one, it's enjoyable in ring. People are not complaining about it and making fun of it like they once did. I don't think there's anything wrong with them changing things up and kind of like appreciating their history. Like, I'm sorry, but like, I don't know. Like, I think it's a really positive move for them. I'm looking forward to it. And man, it's going to feel right to just say TNA accidentally and be correct.
It's absolutely on the news and rumors list, so I'm going to wait for it there.
Fair. First of all, I guess it's my turn. So first of all, to Matt in the chat, peace be with you. And second of all, this might be a little bit of a mini rant, but this is sort of where we're at today. We need to stop calling it Battle of the Belts, y'all.
Thank you.
Okay.
It ain't no battle if they never lose the belts they come in with.
Yes.
So I had to check back on this. There was somebody who posted this on Twitter, and I did sort of go and verify. There's only been one title change on Battle of the Belts in the history of that. They've done 5 of these things. And that one title change was Sammy Guevara beating Scorpio Sky for the TNT Championship. There has been, for those who want to be pedantic, a vacant belt was claimed, I believe, also by Guevara in a match with Dustin Rhodes. Sorry. But again, do I love seeing Willow Nightingale and John Silver get featured on, what is effectively a mini pay-per-view style show? Yes, I do, but it doesn't work. It doesn't hold as entertainment. It's not the same level of drama if there's never a title change. And I actually say this sort of as a quick aside because Crown Jewel is coming up, and I double-checked Crown Jewel as well. In the history of Crown Jewel, to my knowledge, there has been 2 title changes. The Fiend beating Seth Rollins after the disaster that was Hell in a Cell. And last year, the women's tag titles, Damage Control picked it up off of Bliss and Asuka. That's it. Which leads me to, you're asking me to get excited about LA Knight? How am I supposed to do that if you never change titles at Crown Jewel? This being his opportunity kind of telegraphs what it is you're trying to do with him, even if, nobody actually believes that he's going to win the championship. If you have a character that hot, you have to give them a match where people can believe in it. Otherwise, there isn't really a point. But that's just me.
It's almost like the Sami Zayn effect before Mania.
100%.
Basically what it is. It's that match that It's basically they're hearing people upset the fact that Roman hasn't defended the title since SummerSlam. Before that, WrestleMania. They're starting to hear people be upset that he's not defending the title every 30 days. And they're hearing people upset that he's not on TV, period, unless it's something important. And now it's like, okay, we'll take our hottest guy who's getting all the fanfare and the hype and all that stuff and give him a title shot.
And forgive me if because I'm not going to be watching Crown Jewel, but if the match is some variety of LA Knight gets the early advantage on Roman Reigns, there's interference, then there's counter interference, and then Roman uses distraction to win. If that isn't the match, I will owe somebody some money. But I have a feeling that that is going to be what we're getting.
We're going to have to make that bet, Kyle. We have to make that bet.
That's okay. Me and Jax have a bet going on too.
I don't really see a loser in this bet, though. Like, I was thinking about this the other night, Mike. I don't really see a loser in our bet.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if I really want to tattoo the words "bang bang" on me. I don't know how attractive that would be, you know.
I have a taco stegosaurus on my calf. Trust me, you'll work through it.
Where you get it, like bang bang across your heart, like that could be heartfelt, you know. Could be worse. You could screw it up and say it like Renee said it, and then you got gang bang across your heart.
To be honest, though, I mean, I do have a Mr. Hanky of the Christmas poop tattooed on me, so
there you go.
There you go.
Fucking weirdo. Rylan, it's your turn, Bubba.
This week in wrestling. Let's see. I mean, I didn't really like the fact that we didn't have anything more with MJF this week on Dynamite. I kind of come to expect him showing up every week and doing something. And this week it just felt like they were teasing more and more that he's the devil. And I think at this point we all know he's not the devil. So I don't know, like, it just wasn't for me. I'm honestly, like, for two guys who I respect very highly, like Jay White and MJF, this whole I stole your title storyline is so tried and played out, and it's so silly, and I don't know, like, I feel like they're above it, and I'm not 100%. I'm excited for the match, but I'm not on board for what they're doing so far.
so.
I think that when Adam got hurt, they kind of were like, oh, fuck, what do we do? The biggest story our company's ever had is immediately put on hold, you know, because of his surgery and the ankle and everything that happened. So I think right now what they're doing is they're scrambling while they wait for everything to land with Adam's injury. Because I think them being in the middle of that storyline with him and Adam and then him getting hurt really screwed everything up in the long-term booking for what they were doing.
It's fair.
Yeah. Mine's super easy. I'm not real pissed, but I'm hyped as fuck about like the idea of gearing up for Survivor Series and brand warfare again. We're going to talk about it when we get to our Survivor Series moments, but I'm really genuinely excited for brand splits to matter again. All right, guys, let's dive into some news and rumors before we get into some Survivor Series stuff. First and foremost, we've already brought it up. It was in there for a lot of us. TNA Wrestling is back, and a video package closing Bound for Glory. TNA will be making a comeback in January 2024 with Hard to Kill. Nostalgia points. Everybody feels really excited about it. You know, it's kind of up in the air. Where did it come from? Why now kind of thing. How are the four of you feeling about TNA in this moment, making the comeback now in pro wrestling?
It's fucking great. I'm interested to hear Kyle because I don't think he's watched the TNA show.
I have watched TNA television. I have yet to watch one of their pay-per-views. So here's what I'll say about it. I don't have any strong feelings about the branding one way or the other, but if it is an indication that they are going to be dedicated to like really pushing as that, third North American option for, being a big time proper wrestling company and putting on those kinds of shows that you come to expect out of some of the excellent performance that they have. If this is like a concerted effort to really double down on that, I am 100% for it, and I will have to check it out. But if this is just like TNA is kind of, it has a like cool in the 90s kind of feel to it in terms of, as a name, but like if they're willing to couple that with delivering on total nonstop action in the ring, I'm all for it.
I'm excited for it. I am, because it's we all know it's not easy to for those who've watched TNA for a long time, since the early 2000s, 2003, 4, even when they would started really getting good in 2006, 7, 8, 9, before the Hogan era. We still sometimes call it TNA instead
Damn right,
of
Tommy.
Impact. And now that the product is getting to the point where they were back then, the in-ring's getting good, the stories are getting good, it's getting interesting, it's starting to catch more eyes and ears. I think it's good that they're making this change back to it. And and even if they stick around with the Impact name, they could still call their weekly show TNA Impact like they did back in the day, instead of just calling it TNA. Just TNA.
Bo?
One thing I do hope they do is they bring back the old championship belt, the old world title, because that design was amazing.
Mike, I wish they would, but I watched a video today on the interweb saying that they're getting all new belts. They're just gonna fresh scratch new belts for them. My biggest thing is, why now? Why wait this long?
I think because they had to get their stuff out. I mean, they needed to start getting the eyes and ears again.
I think there's certainly too, like, there's pressure because, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this, and I don't know if this is another story on News and Rumors, but like the NWA potentially landing on the CW, like, I don't know, like, people can scoff at that all they want, but it's still a network that has lots of eyeballs. And and don't get me wrong, listen, I haven't been a fan of a lot of what the NWA has done in the last year and a half to 2 years. I think they started really hot in 2019. I think it was different. I think it was something that we can all appreciate. And you go back in time and you look at wrestling from back then, and you bring it into a modern era. And I think that worked. But I mean, I think that there's pressure on TNA to do something big because they're not landing on a CW. And quite frankly, I think that right now they need as many eyeballs on their product as possible. And quite frankly, I mean, they should have them. Like, you're talking about, they had their Bound for Glory pay-per-view last night, and we've got matches like Alex Shelley versus Josh Alexander. You've got the Monsters Ball match, which, by the way, I've got some thoughts on that, and I'm going to save that for the next Wallop Roundup. But I don't know. I think right now that they need as many eyeballs on them as possible, and it's a way to kind of bring back people who remember TNA but kind of fell off after Hogan was gone, and they kind of had their years where they were putting the belt on guys like Lashley and McIntyre. No shade on those guys, but it was at a time where it wasn't super hot and it wasn't super popular.
Yeah. Speaking of Bound for Glory, Trinity, Shelley, Sabin, Team ABC, PCO, and Jordan Grace all found victory, with Grace immediately using her call her shot to say when and where. Bailey and Ospreay stole the show, though. Speedball Mike Bailey and Will Ospreay had a contender for match of the year, in my opinion. I've been keeping track of it, and after I watched that match, it immediately landed on my list. How are you guys feeling about Bound for Glory? Did you watch the show? Did you catch the highlights afterwards? Where are you feeling with they're, the ultimately, in my opinion, impacts WrestleMania. It's usually their biggest show of the year. It closes the year out for them. How y'all feel about it?
So I didn't get to see the event thanks to all my streaming services. I had the money for it, and then all my streaming services decided to get charged yesterday. So I didn't get to order it. I should have ordered it at that time. But I read the results today, and I honestly, with what I read, I wish I would have been able to see this match. The Will Ospreay Mike Bailey. It was rumored and it was predicted to be a possible match of the year candidate, and just the matchup alone. Both guys are just awesome in-ring competitors. One thing I'm excited about, though, that came out of this show was they didn't do the predictable and put the world title on Josh Alexander. They kept it on Alex Shelley. And what's really cool is if you think of it and you look at the last time TNA was really, Impact TNA was really, really good, Chris Sabin was champion. Now we're going back into TNA and it's getting good again and everything's starting to go on the up, and now Alex Shelley's champion. Crazy little comparison there. I know. It's dumb, but I'm happy that they kept the title on Alex Shelley, and I hope they keep him as champion going into the new year. I hope they do.
There's something to be said about a guy putting in years and years and years and years into a company and getting a moment like you talked about earlier, how Chris Sabin reached that pinnacle at one point. And that was years ago at this point.
Yeah.
It's nice to see Alex Shelley get that position. And I think Scott D'Amore has done a fantastic job with Impact Wrestling since he got there. Always a great wrestling mind. I didn't get to see the whole show. I definitely threw it on while I was kind of in my falling asleep stages, so I did see a few of the matches. I do want to highlight, though, I think that Don West and Mike Tenay going into the TNA Hall of Fame was a really, really special moment. Mike Tenay had a great speech, and no shade on Tracy Brooks either, but this one I felt like was super, super important. And I love the Don West stories. I think that he is one of those guys that is super underrated when we talk about greatest commentators of all time and guys who got guys over by just adding a little bit of flair into the commentary. Mike Tenay's always been great. I've always felt like he's been underrated, and it's sad that he hasn't been doing as much in the wrestling, if at anything in wrestling lately, because he's a voice who I trust and recognize, and it was a really nice moment for both those guys, and I thought the speech was great, and I thought the moment was great.
Kyle, you got anything for us on Impact Bound for Glory or the TNA stuff before I switch gears?
Didn't watch the show, but to find out that Mike Bailey and Will Ospreay had an amazing match does not remotely surprise me. Those two have been killing it all over the world, and really, somebody who's followed Mike Bailey at least a little bit here in Canada, it's really cool to see him get into that more international audience and have people really recognize how crazy talented he is.
AJ wants to know from the chat, does Sabin cash in option C on Alex Shelley? I've said this was kind of their built-in written story since they both got the titles, right? So we see that kind of being where they're heading.
I think it would actually be a cool match to have as your main event for their first pay-per-view in January.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it would be.
If they decide between now and then in the tapings, they get it all built up over the next 6 or 8 weeks or whatever it is. Yep. Just do it that way. I can't disagree with that. Regarding TNA, we're told that a lot of planning went into this, and actually it was considered as far back as the summer, but kept getting pushed back. There will be a complete presentation shift in the program from venues to production to logos and looks.
Fuck yeah.
Per Fightful, speaking on what Rylan was saying about the NWA, it's not on my news and rumors because we talked about it last week. I agree that I see a lot of this with the drop of the NWA's news, getting two weekly shows on the CW, which is a top 50 network, starting in January. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many pieces falling in place for the NWA. Impact has to start competing now, because the conversation last year as to who that number 3 promotion was versus where it's at now with MLW, with Impact, with NWA, with New Japan Strong, with all of these promotions getting weekly TV deals in the next 16 months. That number 3 spot's really up for grabs now. So if you're a wrestling fan who doesn't have AEW, WWE blinders on, you should be fucking hyped for what's coming around the corner for you.
Can I ask a really crazy question?
Yeah, I might laugh at you, but you can ask whatever you want.
And if anybody wants to laugh at me, that's okay. But since hearing the news last night that that they're going back to TNA, and now hearing that there's possibilities of maybe them going to a major TV, anything like that, do you think there could be a possibility that by maybe mid 24, maybe even give them a year going into 2025, that they could end up being the second promotion, like outbeating AEW at some point?
Who?
TNA.
Impact?
Yeah.
No,
It would not to be dismissive of it, because I do think they're like, in terms of match quality and different things, like in other metrics, in terms of fan engagement, maybe to a degree, but it's the same thing with WWE. Even when they were at their lowest points, money covers a lot of things that you just can't do any other way. And honestly, the reality is that anytime any Impact stars have gotten a bit too big, generally speaking, they have gotten bought up by somebody else. So it would be interesting to see. I agree with in the chat. It would require them to get a TV deal as well, in a big place. And that's sort of, if they can do that, maybe there's a world that in the future, 25, 26, they can start looking into it. But for them to surpass would be difficult. But with Will's point, it's just exciting to be a wrestling fan right now, because more options is always a better situation, especially for the wrestlers too. Getting to have more companies that they can work for, being able to have more options. It's really good to see.
I mean, the reason why I asked this question is because if you look at it, when they do like pay-per-views, they go to venues where they have like 4, 5, 6,000 seat venues, and they sell out. But when you look at AEW's, even just their weekly, there's some venues where they're only selling 2,500, 3,000 seats, to the point where their attendance, the TNA's attendance is even higher at times.
I say this every single week. We talk about fucking attendance. AEW doesn't draw in Nashville big enough to book out Bridgestone Arena. If you're not going to sell out a 15,000 seat arena, don't come to one. Go to a municipal auditorium that's only 5 or 8 or 10,000. Go to smaller arenas. There's no shame in selling out smaller arenas. There are companies right now that run weekly who are glad to get 200 asses in their seats. If Tony Khan books a weekly show that sells 2,500 tickets, good on fucking Tony Khan. You know what I mean? That's great. But don't pretend to be something you're not. Don't pretend to be a 30,000 seat company if you're a 10,000 seat company. Don't pretend to be a 20,000 seat company if you're a 5K company. You know what I mean? Don't book yourself to where you have to have people on the internet trolling you because Edge comes out to, 3,000 people or whatever. Like, just be smarter about the way they book it.
And I'm not asking this to shit on AEW or anything. I love AEW. I love their product as well. But it kind of like puts that question in the air of like, is there a possibility, because for one, with the attendance and stuff like that, is there a possibility they can move into it? And even if they do get on a major TV deal, is there a possibility of doing it? And I don't know. I mean, that's the thing too, is that in comparison, Impact, TNA, they build stories up to where you look at story differential in some sorts. AEW tends to move, and they've been slowing down as of late. They've been actually letting us absorb what's happening. But in the past, even a month or two ago, it was go, 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 go. Now they're starting to slow things down a little bit, which is nice.
All right, guys, let's pound through a couple of these news and rumors so we can get into some Survivor Series shits. I'm going to read you the headlines. You guys each one of you give me your quick, 10-second response to it. Undertaker starting a Patreon 6 feet under, covering 30 years of his career, including matches, highlights, behind the scenes information, coming with more information based for every dollar you spend. So the higher the tier, the more shit you get. How are y'all feeling about Undertaker going to Patreon?
I'm just gonna say this real quick. If I had money, I'd pay for it. That guy is more and more fascinating every time I hear him talk. Like, I love his interviews. I love the fact that he's kind of taken that stance of, I was, super kayfabe beforehand, but now I'm going to tell my stories. I think he's entertaining. I think his Hall of Fame speech for me, is one of the best of all time, just because of the fact that he did it in such a way. So, I mean, if I had money, I'd pay for it.
Anybody else got anything about Undertaker?
Yeah, sorry. I legitimately did you, Will. I said here, and I have said the same thing twice because I was muted. I'm down for it. I mean, if you get a little bit more of a chance to pick this man's brain, someone who throughout his whole career stayed very kayfabe and close to the chest. What the fuck? And stayed real close to the chest. Can't do it. Yeah, I'm down for it. Like, I depending on what the tiers cost, I'd probably buy it. Damn you, Will.
Sting says Revolution 2024 is it. So he's had an illustrious career. We don't need to have a circle jerk about how good Steve, whatever his name is. I'm not a Sting guy, no question about it. He's a legend. I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. It's just not my cup of tea. Who do you want his last match to be?
It has to be Darby Allin.
You think it has to be Darby?
Yeah. I saw Vince Russo tweet this week that it has to be Ric Flair. No, I don't want to see that at all. Yuck. No. I'm sorry. No shade on Ric Flair's wrestling career, but Ric Flair is 75 years old, and his last wrestling match was not for me whatsoever. So I don't want to see 65-year-old Sting and 75-year-old Ric Flair try and have a match. Darby Allin will protect Sting. I think that's been the biggest thing of his AEW career is he's done some crazy shit. Some shit that we didn't ever see Sting do. And it's been super entertaining and super fun. But it's time, and it's fine that it's time. I don't think that anyone else needs the rub but Darby. It makes the most sense. He's been linked to Darby the entire time, and Darby will get a huge amount out of beating Sting. I also, by the way, if anyone is going to argue that Sting should win his last match, come on. Come on. Especially against anyone on the AEW roster.
So with you saying that, Sting doesn't even need to win his last match, I actually have one. So we got the announcement from Dustin Rhodes that he's retiring at the end of 2023. Why not have Sting face Dustin in a retirement match for both, and they go the time limit? Nobody has to win. Nobody has to lose.
Ooh, I like that too. I just don't think Sting. I don't think Sting has as much as Dustin does. I think Dustin is a completely different worker, and I don't think Sting could handle going the time limit.
Mike, I just have a question. When you sleep on a fence post like that, do you stick it in your ass or your mouth? Because I've never seen somebody who could walk a fine line of not picking a side in my entire fucking life, my guy. Time limit draw on a retirement match is worse than kissing your sister. That's some Mari with your sister shit, dude. You have to have somebody win.
But it's something
you can't come to a draw in a final match of somebody's career.
Why
dude.
Not? It'd be a career for both of them. None of them are looking up to the ceiling. It goes 30 minutes, and that be it.
That would be like the Eagles deciding it would be okay to tie the Super Bowl.
I mean, that would never happen anyways. They don't tie. You have to.
They would never make the Super Bowl again. So Darby's kind of the general thought. We don't want him to bring in somebody, not a Muda, not a Flair. Just let Darby do it and get it done.
Should be someone on the roster. If it's not going to be Darby, then it should be somebody who's going to get a heel victory over him. But Darby,
I know who it should be.
Who?
Adam Copeland.
That's not a bad pick. Have they ever worked together?
No.
The first time they stepped in a ring together was in AEW.
Okay.
Wrestle Dream. Yeah.
Eric Bischoff doesn't see the benefit for AEW allowing wrestlers to work the indie shows. The risk is somebody gets hurt on the indie scene and takes them off your roster. It was on the most recent episode of Strictly Business Podcast. Do you think that Eric Bischoff, he has a bucket that holds water here with the whole AEW roster can get injured on the indies thing?
They have so many people. Like, not to be whatever, but if on the off chance somebody gets hurt doing an indie show, they have a lot of other wrestlers who can cover that time. That's not the issue. The reason you want them on the indies is so that you can, one, be the place that scouts that talent and, you know, has your wrestlers having matches with all those people that you might contemplate bringing in. And two, you get to have more exposure within the indie scene of, you know, those AEW wrestlers getting around to all those shows, drawing more fans in that way. It makes a world of sense to do that.
Yeah, because you can have fans at that indie show that has never seen AEW ever, and they ask, like, oh, where'd this person come from? Oh, they're in AEW. What's AEW? Here's the channel, here's the time, check it out here. They're on here. Simple as that.
I'm watching.
Shadow says, what has me pissed off this week is attention seekers and racist assholes. Okay, bye. I do have to say that if you're going to be, Shadow, I don't want to go there. Bianca's back. She's making headlines. How are you guys feeling about the EST being back? I'm a huge, staunch Bianca Belair supporter. So I'm pretty hyped about her return. What are you guys thinking? There's been some good, bad, and indifference on the interwebs. It's caused some uproar in the TikTok community with some creators. How are you guys feeling about Bianca back? What's up, Dad Hat? Thanks for hollering at us from vacation, bud.
Bianca Belair's never an unwelcome face on WWE television.
Agreed.
She's great. She's fantastic. And quite frankly, like, when she goes away, I feel like at this point she's missed. Like, she's been the one female star in the WWE that I feel like time away has not hurt her, but like there's definitely a longing to see Bianca Belair in something. And I don't know, like, I'm like you, Will, I'm a big fan and I'm happy to see her back.
She's a big match machine. Like, in those really big moments where the lights are out, she is, or when the lights are up, she is the person who is delivering in a big way. And I'm excited to get her to see. And frankly, there's some people coming up from that NXT women's division who are very, very entertaining, who I would love to get the chance to work with a Bianca Belair. It could be, you know, great wrestling.
Nick Aldis has his first full week on the job, teases brand warfare on SmackDown. Is this the way we finally nail home a reality in a brand split that matters?
Please. I hope so.
Agreed.
I think ultimately the brand split doesn't matter. I think
the way we get to one that does, though, is my point, is them bringing back brand warfare going to be a way to make there be some kind of pride for working for SmackDown again, a pride for working for Raw. Is, you know, this means war, whatever the cheesy shit Adam Pearce said on Monday night. Like, I hate the writers, by the way. Like, bring in real fucking writers. Like, tangent. Wrestling writers and TV writers are not the same fucking thing. I accept that. WWE is no longer a wrestling promotion. WWE is a fucking TV show about a wrestling company. Don't write your show like a wrestling show. It doesn't make sense. WWE can't keep kayfabe in a phony drama like they can't. Don't treat it like that. WWE is as much of a TV show about wrestling as Heels was. That's neither here nor there. I'm sorry.
It'll matter for that one night.
I think the biggest thing for it is that if you want to get brand warfare going again, you really, really need to have the individual players have their own individual motivations for wanting to be a part of brand warfare. Don't just put shirts on them and have them like rally to the cause. Give them a reason to do it. Whatever it happens to be, it doesn't have to be complicated. Just give them a reason. It could be money. That's a reason.
I agree with that because you can have somebody like, we'll take Jey Uso, for example. I'm on Raw. Okay, I'm wearing a Raw shirt at Survivor Series. But then that's it. You're going to see him on SmackDown the following week. Like, give them some type of motivation to not only say it at one event, but do it in the near future.
I did like how Nick Aldis did fine Jay $10,000 for being on SmackDown. That was that I believe that one phrase, that split second, is going to give people a reason to go, oh, wait. I can lose money now? Hell no, I'm staying right here. You find me 10 grand for going on someone else's show, dude, I'm broke.
But what if they very quickly find a way, like in the story, to have one of the superstars say 10,000? That's nothing. I'll do what I want.
That's what Cameron Grimes is for.
That is a perfect example.
Yeah.
The chat saying give Soul Survivor the benefit of pick their entrant in the Rumble.
If you're doing
AJ
it, it's
says,
29, not 30, because 30 needs to be reserved for a surprise, but 29 is perfectly fine.
AJ says, what if the winner gets the 30 spot in the Rumble? Scal says 30 doesn't always win. So kind of the same thing. Let the person who is the Soul Survivor be the one to pick their spot. Final one, and it's always Bo's favorite. Gentlemen, it's the Ryback tinfoil hat moment of the week. This week's Ryback tinfoil hat moment of the week comes to us from the Ryback TikTok, and he discusses drug testing in WWE. So let me turn the volume up. Y'all ready? Here we go. Make sure, give me a thumbs up and let me know you can hear it when it starts playing.
The drug tester will have a sealed bottle, which he will break that seal in there. And then you have to drop your pants or short all the way down to your ankles. And then you have to take your shirt and lift your shirt and show them your nipples. Now
your nipples.
Your nipples.
Why the hell do you have to show them your nipples? Let me explain. Early on in WWE's drug testing programming, there was a developmental talent that was using a Wizinator, and other talents were actually using this as well to cheat the test, in which they had clean urine held in this device, in which they would use that to go to the bathroom, in which the drug testers never went into the stall with the talent. So after that incident, this is where things became standard protocol, where you have to drop your pants down to your ankles and leave them down, nipples out, show them that you don't have any fake devices strapped up to you, and then they would hand you the cup, and you have to then proceed to go to the bathroom in the cup with the drug tester watching you, then hand him back the cup and either finish going to the bathroom or stop and wait, and then you complete the remaining paperwork. For the women, it's essentially the same thing, same protocol, in which they would go into the stall, and the drug tester, women for women, men for men, on this, by the way, will then watch them provide the sample.
All right, guys. So Ryback, he tends to go crazy. He tends to talk about a lot of wild shit. In reality, if WWE makes their talent go into a bathroom, drop trowel to their ankles, dick and ball swinging, and then they have to pull it up like they're not fucking wired by the FBI, is this too far for a company to strip shirts its employees for drug testing?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I call complete bullshit on all that, because here's a pullback curtain. I've been to jail. I've had to do random drug tests, and that's not as extensive being locked up. Like, no one in jail is going, hey, let me see your nipples. Pull them up, big boy.
Let me check your nipples out. Bo, let me see your nipples right now.
We'll get kicked off, won't we?
No.
I'm not doing drugs.
See, look, Bo's not on drugs. We saw his nipples. It's obvious.
Like,
he's fine.
The thing is, like,
I was going to say, USADA's standard for drug testing is just to have, like, the monitoring person, pissing. That is a thing.
Yes, that 100%. I was being facetious, kind of, in requesting strip searches, but Ryback has a tendency to turn everything up to 11. Is this just Ryback going, WWE made me piss in a cup? Is this Ryback going, they made me strip down naked and they stuck it in my butt? Like, is this just him making shit up to make shit up again?
Yes, I don't believe that Ryback was ever drug tested. Look at him. Look at him. He's a machine.
He's
a machine.
Oh, man.
Tommy, you got anything to say about Ryback?
Well,
reporting from the scene of Christmas.
well,
What do you got for me, Tommy?
Come on, you're on the spot.
You're on the spot, dude. You're on the air now.
do I think it's extensive in a certain way? Do I think it's dumb? No, because these guys are performers. You know, they go out and perform for millions of people every fucking week. So do I think it's extensive? It's a toss-up. You can go either way with this.
Listen, McDonald's don't
Thank
even
you,
make
Tommy.
you show your nipples.
Yeah, you gotta show your nipple. Show me a nipple.
Here's your nipple. Nipple.
All right. Thank you, Tommy. I'm gonna put you back in your cage.
Thank
now.
you, sir.
All right, gentlemen. That's it for news and rumors. So far, so good. I feel like I'm hitting most of my times without Al here to keep me in line. It's why we're here, though.
That role, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Shit. My bad.
You let me run 3.5 minutes over in news and rumors, asshole. Way to keep your times, Mike. No, I'm just kidding. So we're here, and at the core of what Botch Bots and Share Shots is, we love to be kind of a conversation of what wrestling is from the fans' perspective. You know, and that could be fans from people that have watched wrestling for a year, or we've had fans that have watched wrestling for 50 years. It's the joy of what it is. Tonight, however, with the Fall Classic right around the corner. No, I'm not talking about the World Series. I'm talking about Survivor Series. It was the tit for tat. It came after WrestleMania to follow up to go head to head with Starrcade. It was Vince McMahon's, like, you know, it was, if SummerSlam was the nail in the coffin to JCP, Survivor Series was the one that started the process. And, you know, when they came out with it. So the conversation is our favorite Survivor Series moments. We're going to go round robin. We all have a list of about 5 or so. I know mine and Bo's are a little bit longer in case there's some duplicates or we need to fill some time. I don't think that's going to be a problem. We all love to talk. So Kyle, you're at the top. I'm going to start round robin style. I'll let you tee off. What's one of your favorite Survivor Series moments as a wrestling fan and podcaster?
I didn't realize. I thought we were doing it in list order, but I'll just shout them out then. I'm admittedly more of a recent wrestling fan, so a lot of my things are going to be really, really recent. But last year's men's match was so good. The story that was told with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, if the trial was sort of this big, beautiful, bombastic midpoint of that story, that Survival Series match was a wonderful finale to that first act of, you know, Sami Zayn fully becoming one of the Bloodline. And everything about that match was physical. It was hard hitting. It was incredibly emotional. It called back to history, even beyond the WWE with Kevin and Sami. Like, it was a masterpiece of wrestling, and have it in a War Games format, which is already, you know, a big win for me. I know they're probably not going to carry forward with War Games as part of the Survivor Series, but I hope it goes somewhere. I would love to see it land somewhere in WWE.
I also had that down because it's the first time they replaced the traditional elimination match, bringing War Games from NXT. And I remember just going, this is gonna, I want to see. It was, and they, to me, it was like almost like a test. I wanted to see if they could do War Games as good as NXT could do it, because the Undisputed Era gave us some War Games to remember.
They
So
absolutely did.
This story and the way it was told, using War Games at Survivor Series, I think they lived up to the name War Games.
Rylan.
I'm going to go off kilter here. 2004 Survivor Series, Team Orton versus Team Triple H. This was the last time there were stakes to a men's or like to a Survivor Series match, in my opinion, anyway. Like the winner was able to run Raw for the next 4 weeks because Eric Bischoff had announced that he was going on vacation. And with Team Orton winning, You had Randy Orton, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, and Maven run Raw for 4 weeks, and it was interesting. It was something. It was something to do, and I thought that was one of the more entertaining Survivor Series matches in my time of watching wrestling. Anyway,
we just talked about the Soul Survivor having a chance to pick their Royal Rumble spot or having it. Do you think it would bring back a meaning to that match? And that doesn't necessarily have to be a War Games match either, but if they brought back the traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches, would adding a gimmick or stipulation to the winner, would it add something to make it to be more meaningful, I guess?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The one thing, and I might be thinking a little too deep into this, if you had a stipulation like the Soul Survivor gets a pick on their Royal Rumble spot, then wouldn't that ultimately put in the whole thing of like teammates turning on each other just so they are the Soul Survivor?
It could bring that into play, that whole teammate versus teammate thing, because they could, just so they get that power. I can absolutely, completely agree. Mike, it's to you, bud.
So we're doing this as spot by spot, correct? Like 1 through 5, 5 through 1.
It doesn't, in whatever order you wanted. Mine's not in my favorite top 5. This is not much more. I just took some of my favorite Survivor Series moments that I've seen as a fan. Okay. So,
well, this one was my honorable mention because I actually have 6, 5, and then an honorable mention. The first Elimination Chamber match in 2002.
Oh, it's a good
introduced to that structure and the competitors in it, the stuff that happened in that match, and ultimately the winner. Like, out of RVD, Kane, Triple H, Jericho, Shawn Michaels, did you think Shawn Michaels was going to win? Like,
it was the story they were telling at the time, but certainly, like, putting the title on Shawn Michaels was a thought, like, was a background thought at that time.
And plus, to top off a night that was literally historic, because Survivor Series 2002 was the last time that every championship that was on the line changed hands. Not one person retained their titles.
It was a reset before Mania.
Pretty much. But the first Elimination Chamber in 2002.
That's a great one. I love that match and what it's become. Bo, what you got for us?
I'm going to kick mine off with 1998 Deadly Games. It was the first Survivor Series that did not have a traditional Survivor Series elimination match. And one thing that I did want to bring up, and this is just, we always, it was another, well, War Game or Deadly Games had a screw job in it too.
I'm going to bring that up in just a second when you get done. Yeah.
But we look at now, when we look at AEW, and this segues into this, and we go, damn, there's 15 matches. Damn, there's 13 matches on this card. Deadly Games, including the dark match and the 3 that were on Heat the hour before, 18 matches.
Jesus, dude.
All but 2 were tournament matches.
I was going to say, the difference was, though, that was the Attitude Era, so you could do a 5-minute match and get all the heat you can in 25 minutes in AEW.
I mean, The Rock and Big Boss Man in that tournament, literally a 4-second match. Rock came in, rolled a Big Boss Man. That was it.
I heard Mike go.
We timed it. We did it. The screw job finish in 97 with the sharpshooter Michaels on Brett. In 98, it was Rock on Mankind. McMahon is standing ringside for both years. He causes the timekeeper to ring the bell. It's Earl Hebner both times. Like, literally the exact same finish 2 years in a row in Survivor Series. AJ threw 2 in, Taker's debut and the Montreal screw job. I'm sure both of those will come up. For my first one, I'm going to pull Sheamus cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase in 2015 out. Okay, I'm going to take that one off the board. You've got a good, not great 10-minute main event between Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. So you look at that match, and then the confetti drops and the pomp and circumstances of Roman winning that match. Sheamus comes out, he cashes in, he hits a bro kick, but Roman kicks out. And you're like, oh shit, they're going to run a match. Roman's going to have to run a second match. He goes for the clothesline. Roman ducks. Here comes the spear. Nope. Sheamus misses. He hits a second bro kick. 1, 2, 3. Sheamus gets his world title. This isn't the heist of the century. This isn't Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania. But I feel like for Sheamus, this was one of the biggest moments in his career. And in 2015, that pop kind of happened, because a lot of people haven't been cashing in at Survivor Series and stuff. It's always, either really soon after they get the briefcase or they hold on to it for the whole year. Like Survivor Series is in that sweet spot, that 6-month mark from winning the briefcase, right in the fucking middle. So that's how Sheamus made my list. So Sheamus cashing in 2015.
Oh man.
What?
So you and Jax, literally these last 2 picks
were on your list.
I had The Rock turning heel Survivor Series 98 after the tournament. And then I had them as my number 1, Sheamus cashing in at Survivor Series 2015.
Okay, so everybody's done 1 now. Since that seems to be a thing, we're going to start repeating. Kyle, let's start with you now. Let's read off our next 4, and we'll do it that way, and then we'll just kind of dissect everybody's list then, because I know we're going to start running into some duplicates. So let's just go ahead and do it that way, because I think the round robin is going to be we're all going to chew up each other's picks. Like I already see that happening.
This might be stealing multiple things, because this is over the course of multiple years, but I think it's kind of important because it's the same guy. There was a 3-year stretch where Brock Lesnar matches were the most interesting thing happening in Survivor Series. You had the match with Goldberg in 16, which, while not like a big deal in terms of like match quality or anything like that, was still incredibly shocking to see Brock Lesnar be completely ragdolled around in a short match like that one. You have AJ Styles in 2017, which is a low-key amazing match. And then an even better one with Daniel Bryan in 18, which like was, a kind of a match of the year candidate late into the year of 2018. Like it was go back and watch it. It was a really, really good match. And it goes to show when Brock Lesnar puts his working boots on, he can deliver some big matches, even that late into his career.
I had that on my list also, like the Brock Goldberg, because I had no clue in the world that I was like, Brock's going to go in here and eat Goldberg alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then Goldberg comes out in typical Goldberg fashion. Boom, 2 big moves, lights out, let's call it a night. Like it gave you like old-fashioned Goldberg feel.
Even if we didn't want it.
What? Say a little louder, sir.
Even if we didn't fucking want it, Bo.
But against Brock, what does it matter? What is it? Because at that point, Brock was eating everyone alive, and it was kind of refreshing to see somebody come in and, like, as Kyle said, ragdoll him. And I remember that's a Canadian crowd. I believe that's a Toronto crowd. We ate that shit up, and we also had tons of other stuff on that weekend that were great wrestling wise. But that was the perfect way to end that show. At that point, everyone just assumed that Brock Lesnar was going to go in there and work him over. But no, we didn't need that. We needed the comeback for Goldberg that we got. Unfortunately, Goldberg got into a place where he was as entertaining as Brock Lesnar was in that era. But that being said, at the time, it was refreshing.
Absolutely. Rylan, you want to knock another one off your list?
I mean, like the Shield debut. Come on. You're talking about 3 guys who are considered the 3 best wrestlers in the world through Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And don't get me wrong, I understand that some of that's kayfabe, and I understand that whatever. But I gotta say, I feel like to the wrestlers themselves, that's a big deal. I know Kyle and I are going to talk about the women's list on our next program, but quite frankly, like it's something that, you know, like it's always going to be a part of wrestling history. The Shield debuting is always, no matter how silly they looked in those turtlenecks, they got the job done on that show, and they made an impact that forever will be a part of wrestling history. So the Shield debuting was a big one for me.
Bo?
We talk about all these debuts, the Shield, Taker, Rock, but we forget about the best debut in wrestling
Don't you say it.
history.
Don't you say it.
No.
With the egg and the gobbledygooker.
How dare you?
I was so happy you didn't take my number one.
The gobbledygook.
Gobbledygooker.
Oh,
It's a
God.
Thanksgiving tradition. He's a fucking turkey. It was perfect. It made sense.
Who was in that costume? It was Hector
One of the
Guerrero?
Guerreros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
Mike, you're up.
So 3 out of my 5 got mentioned already. So, my number 5 was actually Heyman turning on Brock in 2002. It was
Big
the
Show
first
match?
time. Yeah,
That was a good one.
because it was the first time, the start of seeing, and for the first time seeing Brock work on his own without Heyman. He had to speak for himself, all that stuff. And we never thought that Heyman would actually turn on him. And then we get Brock back a few years later. We never thought Brock and Heyman would be split apart again. Now we're getting it. And Brock is yet again working on his own. But that was my number 5. It was a great match. And it was a nice little preview of seeing Brock be on his own.
Love that pick. Bo, it's up.
I just went. I said the gobbledygooker.
Oh, you wanted that? Okay, cool. Well,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. That was one of my that's like one of my most important picks. It even says in my notes, sir, best ever.
I'm saving one just in case somebody else mentions it because I have a.
I mean, I can take your spot. I have another one.
I mean, I'm just look, man. We're gonna go for like another 15, 20 minutes, and then we're gonna cash out and go to bed. Okay. So I just need you to talk about Survivor Series moments, Bo.
Okay, so we do got to mention The Rock. I mean, had one of the most, to me, was the most lackluster debut ever to be one of the biggest superstars today.
With a smiley ass, like,
Little Jerry curls and stuff, dude. It was
and the blue tassels, like jogging out to the ring, like he's a
looked like
lazy Samoan Ultimate Warrior.
yeah, that's what it was like. It was like the rip off between like Ultimate Warrior and a Samoan like get up, and it was just weird looking. And then you go to Deadly Games. What was that? He debuted in 96.
96.
You go 2 years from then, and he's winning the world championship in Deadly Games.
You know what happened? An injury and joining the Nation of Domination. Without those two things happening, The Rock would not have became the
100%.
superstar he was. 100%. Next one on my list, I'm going to take the 2019, and that's real weird for me, is my old school heart, but the 2019, I'm just going to call it the NXT Showcase.
I had this
From
on the list hard.
the Roddy Strong, AJ Styles, Nakamura match, the tag team title match on the pre-show, the women's match between Bayley, Becky, and Shayna, but more importantly, the 5-on-5-on-5 match between NXT, SmackDown, and Raw with Keith Lee and Gunther and Drew McIntyre and everybody that was, everybody that was part of that match.
I do have another one.
You saw Matt Riddle in there at the same time. We got, it was Keith Lee and Braun Strowman. He was doing the stupid choo-choo chain thing, and they did the flying cross bodies on the outside to enter. And Braun Strowman's not a small dude. And Keith Lee stopped that man dead ass in his tracks. I think them giving NXT the nod that night showed the direction they were wanting to take black and gold. And then the wrestling world, like much of us, got crippled by COVID. And when that happened, everything for NXT changed to where it's over the last 3 years to shift to where we're at now. But in my opinion, 2019, going from Survivor Series 2019 to TakeOver Portland in January of 2020 was peak NXT Black and Gold.
Underrated show, Portland. That was an amazing show.
Dijakovac and Keith Lee for the North American title. Ridiculous match.
Still, that match still blows my mind.
It was all because talent got stuck in Saudi.
Can I say my last one?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So my last one on the list is The Undertaker's return at Survivor Series 2005.
Also on my list. Where'd it go? Yeah, with Randy Orton with a Soul Survivor.
Orton won Soul Survivor. Then you just hear the gong. The place goes dark. Druids bring the casket out. Lightning bolt hits the casket, and out comes the Undertaker.
Yeah. He chases Cowboy Bob down, who's still wearing a cast from the 1970s.
Yep.
Yeah.
The longest injury ever. Yeah.
I do have one more.
What's up, Bo?
And we have to talk about the very first Survivor Series.
Ooh.
Every match on the card was a Survivor Series elimination match. Damn. All the way up. And they had its own brackets. And you look back at it now, we see what the women are doing in Survivor Series now. Survivor Series 1 was the showcase of the first ever women's Survivor Series match. I think it was the first one and the only one for a very long time. But even they had tag team Survivor Series. They had the mid card who featured people like Macho Man. And then you got up to the main one, and Hogan's team, and Bam Bam's the one goes the longest, who only gets eliminated to Andre the Giant. I mean, that Survivor Series set a bar, and I don't know if they've ever reached that bar again.
When they debuted Survivor Series, like I said at the beginning of the segment, they were going head-to-head against Starrcade. Then they put Royal Rumble in '88 for the first time when it was a syndicated TV special, head-to-head against Bunkhouse Brawl. And then WrestleMania 3 happened. No, WrestleMania 4 happened in '88. And then SummerSlam of '88 was the first SummerSlam. So Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and SummerSlam, all three debuted within 12 months of each other. They knew JCP was backpedaling and they were taking control of the wrestling business. And Vince McMahon just said, like, rain, hellfire, and brimstone on him. And he just started throwing everything he had at him, booking shows. You guys think it was ruthless now, the Tuesday Night War. Like, go back to the 80s where Vince was running in the same fucking city in North Carolina as JCP sometimes. This man would run house shows, and he would ticket other places with WWE events in the 80s and 90s. He would show up to other wrestlers. Like, it's nuts, man. It's crazy. Kyle, we're back to you, bud.
I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to be the person to break the ice on this. I think we have to talk about the screw job at some point.
There it is.
I think
there it is, Kyle. You're the one who did it.
Yeah, there's a not unreasonable means of dividing up the two eras of WWE as before the screw job and after the screw job. As much as, people will talk about it being, overhyped as an event or whatever it is, I do think the magnitude of what it meant, particularly to that company, cannot be overstated, because everything that came thereafter, everything from, the Attitude Era and everything that builds from what that moment meant comes because of the Montreal screw job and the chaos that was that locker room at the time. Everything that comes with D-Generation X probably is rooted in that same screw job event as well. Like, yeah, it's a monumental event for what it did even beyond that day and what it led to for the WWE after the time. So yeah, beyond the importance of the actual event and my feelings being a Canadian put to the side, I do think that it is a huge deal, and it will be told in stories forever. And I don't know that we'll ever get a full, truly comprehensive knowledge of what exactly happened that night.
Do we think that it was a work, or do we think that it was legit?
Well, it's
Oh boy!
funny that you say that,
doing tinfoil hats again?
Yes, we are.
No tinfoil hats here. Just speaking honest to God's truths. I have written about Montreal. I have asked Vince Russo. I have asked other people that were in the venue that night. I have asked as many people that I could that were involved with what happened then. My favorite question every time, if I talk to somebody who's in that building, was Montreal a work? And you know what I get told every time from people? I've been told yes, and I've been told no. Here's why. It's not about whether or not it was a work in a sense that you walked up to the whiteboard and it said Shawn Michaels is going to beat Bret Hart for the world title tonight. It's not that simple, because Bret was told up until he walked through that curtain by Vince McMahon. They have it on video for Wrestling with Demons or Wrestling in the Dark.
Wrestling with Shadows.
Yeah, Wrestling with Shadows. There you go. Thank you. He says it there. He was told up until the moment he went through the curtain that he was going to be the winner. Okay? Up until last year, everybody had said that they gave him all the information. Vince Russo said it on our show. They called him the night before and they fed Bret every possible scenario that allowed him to lose that title safely without feeling like he was going down. They still couldn't get him to agree to it. Cornette has a totally different story about how it happened. Vince has a totally different story about how it happened. But here's the red herring and the smoking gun that makes me go, this was a fucking work. Okay? 3 big things happened that night. 1, Vince McMahon, Jim Cornette, and Earl Hebner, all 3 knew that as soon as that bell rang, they had to get out of that building as quick as fucking possible.
Yep.
All 3 of those men don't know exactly when, how, and what exit to make in that type of haste without it being organized. Number 2. Okay? Number 2. When you look at the way Montreal worked, everybody said they had no idea what was going down until the A&E documentary. Shawn Michaels said on air in that documentary that him and Vince agreed to take it to the grave, that he was going to screw Bret over that night. He said it on air that they agreed that night. They were going to take it to the grave, that they were going to screw, and they never repeated it until then. Shawn said that was the first time he had ever mentioned it. So it may not have been a work in a traditional sense that you could walk into the building, go up to the whiteboard, and see what's happening. But in a sense that at least Vince, at least Shawn, at least Earl Hebner, at least one of your producers, all of those things, to me, they knew it was happening. It makes it a fucking work. If that many people that were involved with that match knew what was happening, it was a work. Even if WWE says it wasn't. And, you know, Bret Hart will say till he's blue in the face, he got screwed. He's on my Mount Rushmore, greatest in-ring worker of all time, not greatest performer of all time. Huge difference between those two. Montreal is a fucking work, guys. They played us over, and then they played the screw job to make it look like it wasn't a work. It's a work. It's a shoot work. It's like the opposite of a worked shoot. You know what I mean? They played a shoot to make it a work versus the other way around. It's the opposite of Kaufman and Lawler. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
And the first person probably put it out there saying that it was a work was Scott Hall. Scott Hall mentioned it years before the A&E documentary.
Earl Hebner said that he was told that they were going to put the sharpshooter in, and he was to ring the bell immediately. That was what he got told was going to happen. Yep. And even if it happened 5 minutes before the match, it was still a produced angle for that match. That means Vince McMahon wasn't the only person to know it was going to happen. You know, like the whole story this whole time, Vince pulled the trigger himself. That's not how it went down.
Do you think Bret was in the know, though? That's the big question. Do you think Brett was in the know with the spitting in the face and the knocking Vince out in the locker room thing? And again, you talked about the documentary being filmed at that point. Do you think Brett knew what exactly was going to happen, or do you think that he feels like it was a screw job because it was ultimately a screw job?
I think he knew it was going to happen because the talk for weeks of telling him like, hey, you're leaving, we need you to drop the belt. And then the whole of throwing in like, oh, we can have you drop the belt to this person instead of Shawn. No, Vince was adamant about having him drop the belt to Shawn. So even if the idea of not doing it at Survivor Series, they were going to talk about doing it on Raw the next night.
Have a screwy finish and then turn around the next night and drop it. Yeah.
Or he can drop it to The Undertaker at Survivor Series. Like, that was thrown out there. But it wouldn't have made sense story-wise. They were trying to make more sense story-wise.
I don't know whether or not Brett knew, like, at the moment, but I think it was definitely like, this is a possibility of something that could happen.
Yeah. Ryland, it's back to you, bud. Unless anybody's got closing comments on Screwjob. No?
Okay. I've got 3 left. If you want me to rifle them off quick, I can.
Let's just rifle through them because I've got 2 left on my list, and then Kyle can wrap us up then because I think Mike and Ginger both said they were done, right?
Okay, so The Undertaker's debut is always going to be a big moment in Survivor Series history, wrestling history, obviously. We all look back on that moment like it was the start of something big, and it was. Ultimately, it was 30 years of this guy being the guy, one of the guys. Anyway, I talked, and we're going to talk about debuts. My number 1 is Sting's WWE debut. I think that goes understated as a big moment in WWE. Did they capitalize on it? No, of course not. Because they're the WWE and they find ways to fumble these guys who came from different promotions and who never worked for, like him losing to Triple H at WrestleMania was ridiculous. Ridiculous. Why did it need to happen? Was it a fun match? Yes. Did it make any sense? No. But Sting's debut is always a big one. But the one I wanted to talk about, it's another one of those offshoot ones that I talked to a friend of mine today about Survivor Series moments. Chris Jericho fucking up Shane O'Mac for going too hard in their match, laying in those punches that everyone cringes at when they see. And obviously Shane was going a little bit too aggressively, and Chris Jericho put him in his place very quickly with a drop kick off the second rope. I thought that was a one of those Survivor Series moments that's not only hilarious, but fun to look back on.
Hell yeah. There were a few that involved Chris Jericho that were kind of honorable mentions for me because although from that 2000 to that 2005-6 push when he was that young lion Y2J Chris Jericho winning the undisputed title, being right there, like that's probably my second favorite version of Chris outside of the WCW Cruiserweight Champion, TV Champion Chris Jericho. I think the end of the Attitude Era, Y2J showing up on Monday Night Raw, Chris Jericho, that version of him may be my second favorite. That's 2. You got one more for us?
I had The Undertaker. No, I had Undertaker and Sting as 2 different ones. And then of course, Chris Jericho fucking up Shane McMahon.
Kyle, how many do you have left?
Just 1. It's a bit of a sillier one.
Go for it. Let's knock yours out, and then I've got a few that I'll speedball off and get you guys' reactions to.
2018 was a weird show. It went from the highs of Bryan versus Lesnar to the lows of a man literally pissing his pants on live television. But to me, the thing that always stands out to me is it was sort of in the aftermath of it, justice for tag teams. That was the year where Raw ran the table against SmackDown in the Raw and SmackDown, forever war that they had. But because of a screw up by the booker on the show who didn't realize that this was happening, the SmackDown tag team on the pre-show ended up winning in the tag one. I think it was the Good Brothers who ended up winning that, which that goes to show how long ago that was. But It was one of those things that I always found very interesting that, like, 'cause as a person who really loves tag team wrestling, for them to be not only put on the pre-show, but then ignored in the final count because we're trying to tell a story that Raw swept SmackDown and this doesn't work for it, was kind of a peak comedy thing for me.
I agree with that.
I love good comedic wrestling. One on my list is Edge returning in the Hell in a Cell match and disrupts Batista and Undertaker. He sneaks in as a cameraman, and that was around the time as the Hornswoggle story. And at Survivor Series in 2007, it was Hornswoggle versus Great Khali. And I'm not a huge comedic wrestling fan, but I love the fact that Vince McMahon actually wrote a story out in 2007 that required Hornswoggle to wrestle nothing but like 7 foot and above giants. And he was pulling wins out. I think that's ridiculous that they wrote. That was also the same time he was Vince's illegitimate son. AJ mentioned it in the chat. Helen Hart throwing in the towel for Bret during the Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund match from '94. Classic. Stone Cold getting ran over by the car during the backstage interview when the car runs him down. Another great one.
I got a funny one.
Yeah.
Jerry the King Lawler's team against Doink the Clown's team.
Oh yeah. I like Doink. I think that, that was one of those Dark Side of the Ring episodes that really made you go, dude, if he hadn't fucked his life up with drugs and alcohol, like that dude could have, like Matt Bourne could have been one of the greats. Like he was legitimately a great in-ring worker. And he just, as soon as he started to get the push, he just shit the bed.
I haven't gotten to see any of this past season's episodes yet.
That's a good one to watch.
I'm excited to see him.
Kane buries Taker literally. He comes back, he turns on his brother with Paul Bearer, strikes him with lightning, and then uses the backhoe to drop all the dirt on Taker in the buried alive match with Mr. McMahon. Great moment. My last one though, and this comes from 1993. Smoky Mountain Wrestling tag team titles. The Heavenly Bodies with Jim Cornette versus the Rock and Roll Express. It was the last time WWE had another promotion's title on a pay-per-view. It hasn't happened since 1993. That was the last time another promotion defended a title on WWE programming. And it was fucking Smoky Mountain Wrestling and Jim Cornette. So that's it. Any closing thoughts on Survivor Series moments before we get ready to cash out and go home?
No, I'm good.
One moment that I did want to recognize, and I thought about putting this on my list, but I'm gonna just throw it out there anyways. The Undertaker tribute at Survivor Series a few years ago. It was so good. Simple, but yet such a cool moment. Seeing the little screens with the process of the Undertaker changing characters, like I think that was a cool moment. And honestly, I think we all think like the Undertaker and we think WrestleMania, but if you look back in history, Survivor Series was kind of his event too. Not only because he debuted, but all the stuff that he was involved in at that event.
Well said. Hollywood, Mickie James did wear the Impact title at the Rumble, but she did not defend the Impact title at the Royal Rumble.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, are you going technical, or because Mickie James just did but then you
No. I was very straightforward with what I said. That was the last time another promotion defended their title on WWE programming. That doesn't mean it was the last time we saw another promotion's belt.
Yeah,
that was the last time WWE allowed one to be defended on their title.
And you can't count the WCW titles because WWE already owned it. So.
And even then, he says he doesn't remember them even being shown, to be fair. We did it. We made it. That was it. Kyle, Rylan, tell us what's going on with Wallop Media and what's going on with you guys and where everybody can find you and plug your socials. One of you go first.
Kyle, why don't you plug the socials and I'll plug what we got coming up.
Sure. If you do want to check us out, we are on Twitter. I will keep calling that until they make me stop. At Wallop Media for the channel, at Rylan Wallop for Rylan, at Kyle Wallop for myself.
We have tons of stuff coming up. November is going to be a busy month. We're going to be sitting down, I guess on Halloween this year, myself, Kyle, and our co-host DK are going to be sitting down for World's Funniest Podcast. We're going to be doing an over-under segment on classic rock bands. That's going to be a lot of fun. Kyle and I also have a sports show called Friday Morning Lights, where we talk about everything that's going on in sports, as well as Wallop Roundup, where we talk about everything that's going on in wrestling, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. If there's a pay-per-view, we'll talk about it. Wallop Rewind is going to be coming back in the new year. We're going to go where we go back and talk about old wrestling events. We have a bunch of over-under shows out where we've talked about the WWE roster, the AEW roster. We talked about wrestling finishers. That's going to come out November. And stay tuned, guys. December, we're going to be talking about holiday food. So that's going to be really, really exciting. We're wrapping up this year for Wallop Media, and it's going to be a lot of fun heading into December. Stay tuned to all of our social medias, like Kyle mentioned. We have a lot of great content coming up.
Also, Wrestle Quizm, our quiz show with our former champion, Will Gray. We're going to have you back on to defend that title at some point.
Dude, we host a trivia show every week here on Rivet City Radio. I've competed on tons of wrestling, Jeopardy and other style like wrestling trivia. Yours was hard as fuck, bro. That WrestleMania 10 segment, like going back, and I was like, when I would listen to it back, I was like, God damn, we're nerds. Like all of us, like the amount of knowledge we had that night, and the fact that there were still points where we all struggle busted through that entire competition, and still some of the shit we pulled out, I was like, yeah, we're real good at what we do.
Always impresses me every time.
Y'all had a genuinely tough trivia, and that, like, some people are like, who used the slogan "You can't see me"? Like, fuck you. Like, no, you guys were like, who did Earthquake wrestle at WrestleMania 10 and what was the finish? Like, what the fuck?
Not only that, but like over the last few months, Kyle's been doing this. He did a segment one of the episodes where he monotone spoke the lyrics to wrestling songs. And some of them, like the wrestling theme songs that I thought I knew, I obviously didn't. Because when Kyle delivers them in his monotones, dialogue, it's really, really difficult. Really difficult.
I loved coming on, and we'll definitely be having you guys back on, and I will defend the crown whenever needed. Mike, what's going on at the table spot, bruh?
All right. Well, we got the table spot coming on in about 25 minutes. So if y'all stick around here on Rivet City Radio's Twitch or Off the Top Media's YouTube channel, you can check myself out with Cam and Sean tonight. We are going to be talking about Sting's retirement. We're going to be talking about Seth and Drew McIntyre, Roman versus LA Knight, and a couple other things we're going to be talking about. So if y'all stick around, check out the table spot. If you want to also check out some other things that I'm on, Rivet City Red Zone. We were supposed to be on this morning, but yeah, I kind of slept in a little bit. So we're going to be on live tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. here on Rivet City Radio's Twitch, Off the Top Media's YouTube channel. I'm also Cam G's The Boom every Wednesday night after AEW Dynamite, and Prince's Movie Madness every Saturday night at 8 p.m. If you want to check out my socials, it's at Metalcore Mike on Instagram and TikTok, Metalcore Mike 86 on Twitter and Snapchat, and Metalcore Mike Gaming on Twitch. And if you want to follow Summer here on Instagram, her Instagram is SummerPuppers420. She has a whopping 8 followers.
Bo,
can I get a pre-recorded thing for me? Because I feel like I do this a lot.
You want me to do a pre-recorded?
We should do that one day. Just be.
And I'll just play it like they do in Creation World.
We'll be back after this short commercial break, and
it'll just be you plugging your fucking 60s lists of podcasts you're on.
I am legitimately everywhere. Off the Top Media, Rivet City Radio. I'm here every Sunday for bot spots and chair shots. Tuesdays for nerdy news at 420, where we do the damn thing.
It's my favorite show of the week.
And you can find me on Off the Top Media on Tuesdays for NXT on Tap, where we go over the great things happening in NXT right now. I do Halloween Havoc's one of my best, like, still all-time favorite shows.
Okay. I appreciate all of you guys. I'm going to do my housekeeping, then we're going to go home. My shout outs, as always, every week. Follow all of my friends. Follow Off the Top Media. Follow the Wrestle Talk Wolfpack. Follow Wrestling with the Truth and Ted the Hillbilly Hill. Follow the Fanatics Network. That's Tim King and his operation. Follow Creation World. Those are all my people. Follow all my friends. If you're one of the people who are online, join the Discord. All of the links are in the description. You'll get a direct access to all your Rivet City Radio hosts, all your Off the Top hosts. Check out the link for merch, angrylemonade.com/bots and share shots. If you have Amazon Prime, use it, give it to us, give it to the Wrestle Talk Wolfpack, give it to Creation World, give it to any of your favorite Twitch streamers, as long as it doesn't go back to Jeff Bezos. He has too much fucking money.
Oh my.
The lifeblood of Rivet City Radio, those the Patreon. It's $5 a month. You get everything from the Raw Rewind to the Hill Support Group with Max and Colby to my GM mode. Me and Scowls will eventually bring back power rankings. It's all kinds of stuff. It's $5 a month. Check it out. We've got the subathon starting next week. We've got Table Spot. We've got, sorry for the interruption, NXT on Top, Nerdy News. Boom. We've got tons of shit. We're going 7 days a week. We definitely need to get caught up on those, Scowls. We are way the fuck behind. That's it, though, guys. We did it. We made it. Anything for the class before I talk real fast?
Be kind, be patient. The world's not moving as fast as you think it is.
Here it comes, Bo. You ready?
I'm definitely ready for this one.
Now, as we close another episode of Botched, and Share Shots, and take a minute, thank you for listening. Remind you to go wherever you do anything on the internet. Like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, then subscribe again. Leave a comment telling me how great I am or that Tommy likes to fuck in his cowboy boots. Either way, it helps the algorithm and helps find new listeners. If you're feeling really generous and be one of the VIP people, head over to patreon.com and donate to the Rivet City Radio Podcast Network. You get some fantastic swag. We get some fantastic guests. It's a win-win. Remember, tune in on Thursday nights for Boss Bitch Trivia with the Boss Bitch Owl. She'll be back. It's the costume contest this Thursday. It's going to be tons of fun. Will broke Mike. But that's it, guys. Tune in for the table spot for Kyle and Rylan, my boys from Wallop Media, for Metalcore Mike, and my brother Jaxbo from Rivet City Radio. I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.
My people.
Fuck Terry.
Fuck Terry.